Hey, Twisted fans. I just wanted to come on here again and speak to not you, but at the same time, to give you a little bit more of where I'm at here. So, again, this message is for everyone who's known me before, say 2011. I am very aware of how much my insides died after what happened at the hands of $1 billion hospital. Stuff I'm not going to talk about now and am going to put off for a while yet talking about it, unless, of course, I have to, because there are people, a hate group family that used to surround me, and I took a stand. I guess it was last year, the year before, 2 years ago, I guess now, and they had lived here 60, 70 years in this neighborhood, and they all moved away. That was a very good move in how it affected me, and those four houses that were replaced with other individuals just changed the dynamics of the neighborhood. Now, there will be its own challenges with that, but the challenges that I have dealt with are very different. Now, having said that, in the course of this 11 years that I have endured, let's just call it like that, and I've said this before, I think I mentioned it in maybe the mental health video or something I did. I literally was 96% sure I was going to end my life. And in fact, I changed my family physician to a doctor that I said that I was withdrawing my meds so that I would die. And then he asked me very nicely if I would go do an evaluation because he wanted to cover his legal medical obligations. And I agreed. And I did withdraw my meds, and my decline in health was very, very clear. There was some things that I wanted to try to accomplish before I died, and so I went back on medications, and that was, I don't know, 5, 6 years ago. Everything is a lot of a blur. The last 11 years has really been a blur to me. Every year for the last 4, I have started to see a bit of hope that there was a possibility that I would come out of this wanting to die situation. I'm being real frank here. I cannot underscore the amount I spiritually died. So much inside of me died. I literally pushed everyone away. Like literally everyone. Aside from the fact that my PTSD and anxiety, because I cried for years, just all the time, just constantly, all day long. I don't know what I want to say here. Over the course of the last 4 years, and more specifically, not even January 2020 when I sat down with the books. I think it was more, and I think it was I think it might even been about the summer of 2020, that there was something that was happening inside of me that I started to crawl back on top of my world, the world that is me. And I was still detached from the hobbies I held dear to me, such as landscaping. Just a side note, a few years ago, I removed the last of my grass in my yard. My whole yard is landscaped. I'm very much have an addiction to plants and landscaping and things like that. And I did finally find myself engaging back in my yard, but it wasn't until December, this last December, when I was recovering from my surgery that I had the day before Thanksgiving, and just I made that Christmas video and kind of talked about this depression, and maybe I even kind of talked about it in that mental health video that I made right after that. I was so just overcome by everything that was going on. The surgery particularly, I think, was a big part of it, but it was the understanding of how things had changed with me, of accepting that my connections with family were over. Pin that just for a second. I want to go back. My PTSD and anxiety was so intense that aside from me just pulling out of life, nobody wanted to deal with me anymore. It was just too much for them. And not that I cared, but my grandmother was my absolute best friend and closest human being to me in my life. She only lived one house between us. The last few years of her life, I tried like hell to stop going to visit her because I couldn't bear for her to see me as sad as I was. And there's complications with that, and I will talk about some of that in my book when I write it too. Kind of bringing this all together now. I lost so much. And over the course of dealing with my first trauma, which is, the abuse that I had as a child, which was pretty severe, very severe. And the second trauma, which was the hate group, just the relentless attack for 25 years on my livelihood was just insane. And I've kind of spoke about why I endured that. And it was this third trauma with the $1 billion hospital that sort of separated me and detached me. And when I finally came out over this last couple years and started to find myself and feel like I was in this sense of recovery, and I talked about post-traumatic growth and how I felt very empowered in this whole change come over me in just realms of all different aspects. I found a power back, and I grabbed it by the horns and said, "You're not going to screw with me anymore, life. I am done taking shit from anyone." And that was a power I was proud of, and I hung on to, and I clung to, and it was the thing that gave me my life back. Now, we're going to talk about the last 48 hours. I've made a couple videos of these YouTubers and the drama that has gone on between them, and it snapped something inside of me back that I didn't realize was I don't want to say that it was so gone or removed, or I don't really know how to articulate it. But the way, and particularly with Sebastian Soto, the way that I responded the first time I made a video about him, which was just recent. And again, I want to state this. I'm new to these YouTubers and following them, and I have tried to reserve some of my judgment for them. But in the short spell that I have watched them, I did find issue. But this last 48 hours triggered something in me. And it triggered something in me that I thought and didn't realize how much was lost from before January 2011. And I think some of this post-traumatic growth and this aggressive, intolerant nature about me that was my strength sort of kind of disconnected me. But I was already disconnected because of the 11-year trauma and just dead inside. And whatever happened to me in the last 48 hours, I found this part of me that was before January 2011. And it's just something I can mark and say, it's at this point I changed. And that has happened to me in the last 48 hours. I'm glad to see that in me, and it wasn't that I didn't think the old me would come back. I just felt like it was just over. And that part of me was just gone. There wasn't any hope or wishes or anything like that. It wasn't like I thought about it. I was just like, that's in the past. It's over. It's never going to be again. And this last 48 hours feels like just another step in the recovery and finding that inside of me, I actually still exist, the person I was before January 2011, and the inside of my spirituality died. I feel very blessed isn't the word. I just feel honored that all wasn't lost of who I was. Now, there are several steps, and I've mentioned some of them here already with, the hate group moving away, and I will get into some of everything, what they've done. It's just it's really unreal. It's quite, it's just unreal. Everything is happening in such a way that I'm a bit taken back because it feels, it reminds me, or I think of, or understand there are powers at hand that are beyond what we see. The powers of the universe, if you will. The spirit of, some may call it the spirit of God, or, the Holy Ghost, or, whatever religion or thought process, whatever it is, there's something beyond my understanding that is at play here. There are things happening to bring me into a path that I am on now. The path that I became back aware and engaged and seen the growth when January 2020 happened, and I understood this enterprise that I am trying to create. I'm not speaking about it here, but I couldn't be. I'm just glad that I'm where I'm at right now. I'm glad that the last 48 hours has happened with the YouTubers that have had this drama. I know that I now see 10 years ago would have been the summer after that followed the trauma that happened to me in the winter. I took to watching YouTube. And it was my only connection to the outside world. And it has been my main source of connection to the outside world since that summer. And I suppose in that 6 years of watching YouTube videos, I didn't realize, following YouTube channels, that I didn't realize that I was also learning how to be a YouTuber. It wasn't my intentions. It become a byproduct of being part of just, watching it. And when I made my first video on this channel like 4 years ago, it was because I knew that I wanted to give back, and this was something that I wanted to do. This was something that genuinely was on my path now. And I made, 50 some YouTube videos now, and I have other YouTube channels and I have videos on there, but I wouldn't call them content, per se. It was just sort of sharing a little of my yard and, things like that, and some random bits and pieces here, but officially labeling myself as a YouTuber, no matter how weak you want to look at it, I always felt, I had a channel on YouTube, but I wasn't really part of anything. I just was another one of the millions of people who created a page and posted videos, and that's all there was to it. And I hoped that, I could, like many of us, we hope to, gain followers and attention, and, and that's it. It was this last 48 hours that made me feel like I'm part of the YouTube community. And it was from the first time I made a video about Sebastian Soto and Rich Lux to the second one that I made, there was such a powerful change that happened over me. And it was a awakening of how much was lost inside of me that I didn't even realize was so gone. And specifically this looking at people as humans. Now, don't read too much or take that too far. Let's be a little bit. But I suddenly seen Sebastian Soto and Rich Lux and the likes as my friends. Now, granted, they aren't going to give me any recognition, or, I'm probably a nobody in their eyes or whatever. But for me, I know that I'm changed. I can point on that yardstick and say, I changed this time. This moment, this last 48 hours, And I think that you will see that in the way when I make videos, if and when, of course, I'm sure I will, when I make videos, if I make videos because of things that they've said in their videos. Because I'm sure they're going to say things about Trisha Paytas that I'm not going to like. But my reaction when I make those videos won't be so mean, so callous and disconnected, that on the other side of that is a human being that has real feelings. And I think I've always been someone who has really cared for people. I'm a very self-sacrificing person when it comes to other people's feelings, and some of that, just a lot of things in me died over the last 11 years. I didn't hardly exist. And then when I talk about this post-traumatic growth, what filled the void was something a bit overpowering. And when I made that video, I mentioned about understanding what post-traumatic growth is, that it is a force. It's a dangerous force if you don't understand what it is. And this is another one of those moments in the last 48 hours that made me realize how dangerous it is to understand. And I've put perspective into it all. And I hope that if Sebastian Soto would even watch this video, that he understands. And if he's watched any of the videos that I posted or seen the comments that I posted, that he does forgive me and understand where I came from. And I'm not apologizing for that first video I made of him, because I do feel like he put that energy into his video. Whether he's taken somebody else's comments, he did put that in that video. That is the energy that he put into that video. I'm not gonna forget that. I'm not gonna forgive, whatever, however you want to say that. But my reaction because I watched that video again last night at like 3:00 in the morning. I watched both the videos that I made again. And there were some parts in there that I don't know if I would say ashamed, but maybe a bit ashamed, because it was a bit childish. It was a bit dehumanizing. I am older. I should be a bigger person. But I woke up, and again, I didn't realize just how much of me has been dead all this time, and I'm still trying to find what's left of me and what I can grow into in the future. And I have made lots of comments that, I'm the mean girl on the block, or this or that. I have not been that person before. And I, again, with this post-traumatic growth and understanding it, because it can be dangerous, this energy is very strong. It's still there. It still exists in me. I'm blessed and honored to have that. But I didn't realize how dominant this was inside of me, that despite having lost everything inside of me this last 11 years, for any of it to, the softness of me, if you will, for any of that to come back, had quite a thick wall to go through on this post-traumatic growth. And, you know, like a crocus bulb in the spring poking through the snow, I see it. I see it because of what has happened in the last 24 hours. And I am thankful for that. Like I said, I thought that everything was dead inside of me and that I was just finding a completely new person. And I thought this new person just had to be, you know, the no nonsense, no sugarcoating, straight shooter. Just, if you want to call me a mean girl, fine. Intolerant bitch, if you will. And maybe that person will always still kind of be there. It is part of me. There is a part of me that, you know, even Sebastian Soto, he wasn't, you know, I'm not going to stand here and take this crap. In the video he just made today, like in the last hour, I get that. I feel that personally myself too. But I also have to remind myself now that I see that everything inside of me before January 2011 is not lost. And I'm slowly still seeing parts of me, you know, coming out. I think I said something about even in the last 9 months, I've seen a lot of growth inside of me. Leading up kind of to the surgery that I had the day before Thanksgiving, and sort of recovering from that. Even there, I felt something coming back about me. And I'm still trying to understand a lot of things. And I do know that I have a long ways to go to be the person that I want to be, the enterprise that I'm creating, the multiple YouTube channels, the nonprofit. There's just so many things that I'm doing right now. Boots on the ground is this year for me, you know, building connections in ways that I haven't before or even wanted to before. You know, just like even dating people or whatever, I just, or even just having a sexual connection with somebody, that isn't even on my agenda right now. There are parts of all that don't, I have more important things to focus in on right now. This enterprise that I'm trying to create is something very, very important to me. And I think that once I, you know, by the end of the year or next year or whenever or however that goes, I'm not putting any timeline. When I start to talk more about what that's all about, you know, I think it'll all become kind of apparent. But I just wanted to say to those who knew me before 2011, if you're watching this, and if you're watching this, you're most likely hate watching me. There is a part of me that's coming back, the better part of me. And for those who are new and watching me, try to be a little bit patient when you judge me, because when I talk about the details of the 3 traumas that I have dealt with, they're pretty severe. Almost every woman that I tell, and just most people in general, 80% of the people that I tell what happened to me on the first trauma start crying on me. The second trauma is divided between those who are against, homophobic kind of people. That's kind of the dividing line there. If you are, a terrible human being and judge LGBTQI, you're not going to care what happened to me. Those who are LGBTQI are going to be like, those motherfuckers, really? 25 years of hell, what they put me through. The third trauma is so insane that I was court ordered to do therapy, inpatient. I'm a little sketchy on how long I was there because this was right following what the hospital did to me. What happened when, because I had to do some group therapies every day. It was just a lot of, I probably met with 50 different therapists and counselors during all of this. I even had to drive to a state facility a couple 100 miles away from me to go through some evaluations on it too, because nobody knew what had happened. In fact, before all this happened and I was put inpatient, nobody even knew that I had been in the hospital to know what the hospital had done to me. It wasn't until I was out of the hospital for 4 hours and more shit went down. I went back to another hospital, a different hospital, and I essentially was not released. It would be 7 months before I would even go back home to my own house. I was allowed 15 minutes within that 7 months to get some stuff, and then I wasn't even allowed to return home. When I was in that inpatient therapy, if I was in a group meeting, I was not even allowed to talk about what had happened to me because it scared everyone so much. So when I say I've been through 3 traumas, they are serious traumas. They are tough ones. And those 3 traumas literally covered my whole entire life. Literally my whole entire life. There are elements of my story that there is no comparison. Other than, I've The Boy Called It, or the movie Powder, sort of relates a bit to. There is elements of. That's why I'm writing a series of 4 autobiographies that, of course, have grown in depth and width and they've really grown. I just want to say there are a lot of things about me. I am something you'll probably never in your life ever meet what I've had to go through. And I made a comment about life hasn't been fair to me. I know a lot of people say life hasn't been fair. Pull up your bootstraps. Don't be so. No, what I have endured is it's next level. It's not even next level. It's off the charts. There's little to compare to. So I just want to say, for anyone judging me for how I talked or how some of my content is or whatever, it's been a hell of a journey at this point in my life. And I feel like it isn't fair because the makeup that is me I just don't think I don't. It just hasn't been right for me. there was such an amazing person trapped inside of me from the very beginning, and so many people have tried to kill that. And the only way that I got to cultivate the inner me was the some 20 years that I was very, very deep within the church. And my empathy has always been quite a bit more than others. And, you know, I say this often. Dolly Parton has said, you know, no one cries alone in my presence. Yeah, very much so. This empathy inside of me served me incredibly well in the church. It was a very, very, very much a blessing. When I stopped going to church and I then was only part of the world, also because this happened during this third trauma, since this January 2011, because I kind of stopped going to church a couple of years after the trauma happened, because I knew that when I went to church that people talked about me and I was the sad story. I was that guy that everyone had to handle with, delicate gloves, and I didn't like being in that sort of attention. And I just stopped going to church. And, of course, they were always trying to get me to go back, constantly stopping at my house or sending emails, and I was sort of engaged with church, but outside of church yet. And then I just quit going because, like I said, I was pretty sure I was going to end my life, and there seemed no point. And I was so broken inside that I couldn't feel anything. My gut instincts, my spiritual, my Holy Spirit relationship was non-existent. I didn't trust anything, not myself, not anyone, just nothing. Just everything was disconnected, like cutting my, spinal cord, my brain and body and everything just completely separated, especially that first 6 years. And so things are coming back. There's newness about me. I will never be a doormat. I'm still a person who I love diversity. I always have been. That's one thing that has never changed. I've always been drawn to people who are not like me. That's never changed about me. So I know that I am awake and here and present. And the end of December, I bought like 8 houseplants, and it was because I felt like I can take care of these plants now. I have plants that need, attention like every 5 days, some of them. I couldn't commit to something like that, and knew I couldn't commit to something like that for the last 11 years. And I felt confident enough that I was reliable. I'm not gonna. There's so many things I wish I could say right now, but I don't think anyone could understand. But just know that I had a lot of houseplants die on me during this time, and I had fish tanks full of fish that I just suddenly like, oh my God, I haven't fed them in a week, and I went to the aquarium and they're just dead, and I just like, what the fuck? Like I was just so not present, just an unbelievable disconnect. And there are other things that I could share, but I won't. Luckily, my cats and dogs didn't seem to get caught up in that. There was one other thing I was going to share. Oh, just not being present. I would say probably about 6 times in the course of that first 6 years, that I would go to do dishes and I'd be filling up the sink, and I would just get so disconnected at being present that I forgot I was filling my sink full of water until I get up to go in the kitchen and there's water just pouring all over my floor. Like, I can laugh about it now, but I was like, oh my God, again. Like, I just was, I mean, luckily I didn't have a fireplace or, other important things in my life, because I was so disconnected. I would say there were parts that could have been very dangerous had, just if my life would have been a little different, it could have been very dangerous for me. I'm just glad to say that all that is over with. And this video is way longer than I would have liked. You probably won't watch it, so I'm going to just end it here. But I just wanted to make this clear that, what everything I just said in this last 42 minutes. So I'm going to just quit this. There's a little spot in there I'm going to snip out. I had a little, the animals were making too much noise, so I had to get rid of them. I'll just take that out. But the rest of this, I'm just going to leave it as is. And that's all I got to say. I just wanted to say this. So that's it. That's all I got. I don't got any more. I did do a little bit of a cleaning today and some little minor things. And I think a lot of it has to do with just seeing something inside of me come back to life in the last 48 hours, all because of drama between a few YouTubers that has nothing to do with me. And it just brought something inside of me back that I didn't even realize. It'd been so long since I seen that inside of me of 11 years that I just didn't even. And then there's, like I said, I now see myself as part of the YouTube community. I'm not just another person with another channel making videos. I'm actually connected in there and feel a responsibility to choose my words and my thoughts a little bit better in the future. And I'm going to leave these videos up, particularly the first one I made about Rich Lux and Sebastian Soto, as a reminder to keep myself accountable. So I'm going to leave it there, and I'm not going to take it away. So that's it. That's all I got. Sorry, most of you probably won't watch this, but there it is. And, for the most part, this video is for my past. Those who knew me before, and anyone really, really interested in what am I about? What is, that's it. So, okay, bye.